Hello everyone and welcome back to AutomaTitan Cracks One Out. I am AutomaTitan and today we'll be taking a trip back to the Big Apple, except that the Big Apple is a bit more rotten this time around, because today we're cracking one out with Prototype. So, why are we looking at a 9-year-old game then? Well, there's 3 reasons. 1, it's a really good game. 2, when I played Spider-Man last week, parts of it really reminded me of Prototype. And 3, I kinda felt bad about playing a game subtitled I can't play, so I figured I'd do a game he does this episode to make up for it. Not necessarily. Besides, your birthday's coming up soon, so I've dedicated the whole of October to games you love, for I am a kind and generous robot titan. I am. Here, look. Yeah, I knew you'd come round. See everyone, we can be nice to each other. However, I should point out that if a certain someone doesn't stop using the square brackets in his subtitles, then that certain someone might find himself getting fired again. Except it was a stupid idea in the game's title, and it's a stupid idea now. Stop it. When it's you, yes, stop it. Anyway, yes, Prototype. Let's shake off the wholesomeness that permeates Spider-Man, travel back in time by about 9 years, and go on a blood-soaked, roaring rampage of revenge through the streets of New York City, where thanks to one of their imprints producing the tie-in comics, there are DC billboards all over the place. Let's start with the story, and the story begins with Alex Mercer lying dead on a table in the morgue. Yes, you start the game being dead, and then you wake up from being dead, only to find that your memories have abandoned you like the money in my bank account abandoning me during a Steam sale. Oh, and also, Alex Mercer is infected with a virus that's changed him into something new. A shapeshifter, in fact, who sort of, well, eats people. That second part comes into play in a rather novel way, because you're not just eating people to get health back. I mean, sure, you do get health back from sucking them into your belly, but the thing is that when you do, you also absorb their memories. And as we already said, your memories fucked off before you woke up in the morgue. So basically, eating certain specific people is how the story gets moved along. It's all part of what developers Radical called the web of intrigue. Piece by piece, meal by meal, you absorb more and more memories, thus building up a picture of your past, the history of the virus that's inside you, and the history of the shadowy organisation behind it. True that, although given how badly things keep going wrong, they probably aren't that good at what they do. Unusually though, the evil corporation in this game is not Gentek. Yes, they were all set to be the next Umbrella Corporation, but the fact is that Gentek are just another smokescreen, and there's another group pulling the strings. That group is officially called the First Biological Warfare Command, but this Black Ops force is always going to be known by the much catchier name of Black Watch. How so? Oh, ho 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 ho! I'd forgotten that. You see, the Black-like virus that infected Alex Mercer wasn't the first virus to be created by Blackwatch, and the New York outbreak was most definitely not the first outbreak. As we find out during the game, the first outbreak was all the way back in 1969 in Hope, Idaho, an artificial town created by Blackwatch specifically to test out their new bioweapon, the not quite as funkily named red light virus. That whole project was called Carnival 2, and it was, well, let's not beat about the bush, it was a complete clusterfuck. Only 2 of the town's population survived. There's Elizabeth Green, the lass who got infected, who doesn't age anymore, and who went on to be an incubator for at least 14 different strains of the virus. And then there's her son, who she was pregnant with when she got infected, and who is now known only by the name Pariah. Yes, they are. We can see this by the way they released a game on PC that you have to piss about modding to make it run at 1080p. Anyway, the timeline is red light virus created by Blackwatch, tested on the population of Hope, Idaho. Elizabeth Green became an incubator for loads more viral strains. Blackwatch kept her prisoner for 40 years and made Gentech improve the effectiveness of one particular strain to create the Blacklight virus. Oh, and the team lead on the Blacklight virus? Yeah, a certain Dr. Alex Mercer, who went on to become the entity that Blackwatch knows only as Zeus. We'll get back to the whole nature of Alex Mercer and Zeus later, but for now, we still need to explain why Blackwatch is such an unfortunate name. You see, there's one fact about the red light virus we haven't mentioned yet. The plan was to make a virus that would only target specific races, and it was first tested in 1969 at the height of the civil rights movement in America. And their name is Blackwatch. Yeah. That link is never made explicit in the game, but it's a lovely bit of writing that fleshes out the backstory beautifully. So basically, all of that provides the starting point for the game. The whole situation's pretty fucked already, but once the game starts, that's when the real clusterfuck begins. You see, some clever twat decided to release the Blacklight virus in Penn Station, although the word of God says that the Blacklight infection burned out there and then the Marines rock up, followed by Blackwatch, and then Elizabeth Green gets free and infects the entirety of Manhattan with red light. A Blackwatch specialist by the name of Cross infects Mercer with a counter-agent that gets separated and eventually goes on to become the Supreme Hunter. Blackwatch makes super soldiers with yet another Blacklight strain. The Supreme Hunter eats Cross and a nuke goes off. Oh, and the virus doesn't just infect people either. No, it also infects buildings to form hives, and then crustier super hives that need a tank with a thermobaric missile to take them down. I think we can say with some certainty that New York is basically fucked after this. And right in the centre, right in the middle of the war between Blackwatch and the infected, is Alex Mercer, murdering his way through both sides like a hurricane made of steak knives. That segues nicely into the gameplay, and just like with Spider-Man, there's two aspects to it. Don't fucking start that again. Anyway, the order is movement and combat this time round, since it breaks down into getting to the people you want to gleefully eviscerate, usually by legging it up a building and gliding there. And then gleefully eviscerating them in a variety of spectacularly gory ways. There's none of your 4 slow stealth sections here, and no playing as unpowered normies. I mean, why would you even want to do that when you can instead play an almost unkillable shapeshifter who tears people apart like they're made of Play-Doh? Yep, it's all slaughter all the time, and it's fucking brilliant. Some movement first, with Alex Mercer using what developers Radical called hyper parkour. Basically, did you ever look at buildings in Assassin's Creed and think to yourself that instead of slowly climbing it, you wanted to run up it full tilt? Yeah? Well, so did Radical. As a result, you end up playing as a character for whom gravity is sort of optional. Hold down that magic parkour button and you go from a brisk jog to what can only be described as a V8 engine with legs. Pedestrians in the way? No worries. Alex just twats them out of the way. How about cars, trucks, hell, even tanks? Easy. He just hops over them. Walls? Fuck it, keep running, but like vertically. Then hop onto the roof, super jump and glide for about 3 miles with the occasional super fart to give you more thrust in mid-air. Yeah, it's insanely silly and feels just as fucking brilliant as it sounds. That's what happens if you don't have your defensive powers on anywhere. Turn on your shield or your super Guyver armour and the movement changes. You lose the ability to glide, but the payoff is that instead of hopping over trucks, Alex now twats those out of the way. And blimey, if he does that to trucks, what's going to happen to the poor pedestrians he runs past while armoured up? They go fucking miles and then die horribly. That's sort of a running theme when we move on from the parkour to the gleeful bloodbath that follows when you reach your target. You might not know this, but Prototype was the spiritual successor to an actual superhero game, using an actual superhero from an actual superhero comic. That game is Hulk Ultimate Destruction, also made by Radical, and Prototype is the version of it where instead of weaponising things like cars and lampposts, you weaponise yourself. So what that ultimately boils down to is shape-shifting your arms into a whole smorgasbord of pointy, stabby, punchy, whippy, slicey things. Basically, if you played Transformers Devastation and seen how Optimus Prime transforms his hand into an Energon axe, then you've got a pretty good idea of how Mercer does the weaponising himself thing. To start with, you've got your basic fisticuffs, although being able to fly and kick a helicopter out of the sky sort of stretches the definition of fisticuffs, but then so does executing a flying kick on a dude, then body surfing on him and kicking his corpse at his mate. Yeah, that is to fisticuffs what sprinting up a wall is to parkour. Next up, you've got your muscle mass power. That ups the weight of your hands and changes the dynamic of fisticuffs massively. And that's your tamest combat power. That, believe it or not, is the boring option. Compare that to the hammer fist power, for instance, because the second you activate those and start doing fisticuffs with tanks, it becomes blatantly obvious this is the successor to a Hulk game. Or there's the claws, of course, that turn Alex into an even angrier Wolverine. They even do the sound when you activate them, and they come with the added bonus of being able to stab your hand into the ground and shove spikes up your enemy's arse 30 feet away. Or maybe you'd prefer to be a more bloodthirsty Mr. Fantastic, in which case the whip fist power is what you need. That one comes with the added bonus of being able to spank lots of dudes at once, and also being able to hijack helicopters in mid-air while being nowhere sodding near them. And finally, we've got the sword, for when you want to one-shot literally fucking everything. There's one last element after the movement and the combat, and that's the stealth. But Prototype doesn't do stealth in the way you might think. It's less about hiding in the shadows and more about, well, eating people and wearing their faces. In fact, consuming people is a huge part of the game. It's how you get disguises, it's how you get health back, and it's how you get access to things like artillery strikes, but most intriguing of all, it's how you get access to people's memories for the web of intrigue. And that, my friends, ties in directly to the next section, because it's time to take a good look at the character you play as. We're going to call this section of the video "This is why we love the main character, and fuck Prototype 2 for shitting all over his character arc." Right, you'll notice we call him the main character there, and not Alex Mercer, and the reason for that is simple. That is not Alex Mercer. Remember how even the very first trailer said that someone released a lethal virus in Penn Station? Yeah, that was Alex Mercer, and he did it because Blackwatch had cornered him and he decided to take everyone with him, for Alex Mercer was a sociopathic cockend. And then he died, along with everyone else in Penn Station. So actually, what you're playing as is the Blacklight virus itself, which infested his dying form and now wears the corpse of the real Alex Mercer, given the codename Zeus by Blackwatch. You are, in fact, playing as the cancerous anal polyp that walks like a man. That explains the amnesia then. You don't have access to all Alex's memories because you're not Alex, and his brain was in the middle of dying when you took his body over, hence why you need to eat people and absorb their memories. And that is where it gets interesting, because you're not just absorbing their memories, you're absorbing everything that made them who they were. Memories, skills, feelings, the whole shebang. So while you start out as a half-formed reflection of Mercer's personality, you begin to develop a new personality, including traits that the real Mercer never had. So, fascinatingly, and somewhat hilariously, that means that by the end of the game, the Blacklight virus thing that you've been playing as, or Zeus to give it its codename, is more moral and ethical than the actual Alex Mercer. That is one hell of an interesting way to do a character arc, and I fucking love it, which makes it doubly annoying that Prototype 2 then went and shat all over that character arc by making Alex Mercer the fucking villain and explaining his sudden face heel turn in an external tie-in comic and not in the game itself. That is a double-ender of a dick move, that is. Anyway, enough of that. We might look at Prototype 2 someday and really go into why that game can fuck off forever. But for right now, let's stick to the only game in the franchise we actually like, because it's rating time. I think it's pretty clear by now that both me and Subtitle Guy love Prototype. It's a fantastic game, and while the graphics are showing their age, it's still an absolute blast to play. The movement is beautifully fluid, the combat is satisfyingly meaty, the plot is simple but delivered in a nicely twisted way, and the gore is dialed up to frankly hilarious levels. It's almost like a spiritual sibling to Doom in that sense, only instead of a shotgun that walks like a man, you're playing as a sort of eldritch abomination version of Jason Bourne. There is just one annoyance, of course. Both Prototype games are now available on Xbox One and PS4, but for those versions, they've been redone in 1080p, so I'm forced to ask, where the fuck is the 1080p version on PC, Activision? It's genuinely infuriating that the most powerful gaming platform out there gets the worst version of the game. Sure, there is a way to get it running in 1080p, and while it's relatively easy to do so, it means pissing about downloading a DLL file to replace the one the game installs with. From what I understand, It's because the game engine can't handle graphics cards with more than a gig of memory. So Activision, in their infinite wisdom, just went fuck it and disabled resolutions above 1280 by 800, which is just fucking lazy. So yes, it's a piss easy fix, which both me and Subtitle Guy have done with no ill effects, but frankly, we shouldn't have to do that when the console remasters have 1080p as sodding standard. Activision, you're taking the piss. There's no fucking excuse when you've already got a working 1080p build of the game on consoles. Between this and removing every single Transformers game from Steam, you are not making any fucking friends here. Anyway, it still plays brilliantly, but we can't ignore that Activision fuckery. So our rating is rip and smash and fuck about fixing the resolution and nom 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 nom. And on that shocking display of someone not doing their fucking jobs, it's time to end. Thanks very much for watching. I am AutomaTitan, and remember, if you ever find that you need a humanoid massive cancer to save your very life, then you better pray you get Alex Mercer and not Subtitle Guy. Otherwise, you're basically buggered.